Welcome to Eagles and Airwaves, voices and topics from the Thompson Valley High School Eagles.
Hello. How are we all doing today? I will be your host, Jackson, and thank you for tuning back into another episode of Eagles and Airwaves. So, we got another episode of Metal Meltdown today, and I will be talking about the very infamous new metal band Slipknot. And specifically, I'll be talking about their release titled Iowa. This is their second release, and it came out in 2001, which it's pretty old now, 23 years old. One of my favorite releases by them, though, and one of my favorite bands, so I thought this one just had to go on the list. It's a full album, so longer lineup. The songs in order go as 515, People Equal, Crap, Disaster Piece, My Plague, Everything Ends, The Heretic Anthem, Gently, Left Behind, The Shape, I Am Hated, Skin Ticket, New Abortion, Metabolic, and to finish it off, Iowa. So, a lot of what this episode is going to be is just talking about the history of the band members in specific, because they have had they're a pretty large band, very extensive lineup, and they have had a lot of changes throughout the year. I'll start it off with their popular songs. We have none of them from this album, but you might have heard of some of these songs before. First off, we have Duality with 785.5 million streams on Spotify. What an insane number. The next, we have Psychosocial with 621.6 million streams. And then Before I Forget with 541.8 million streams. So, I guess without further ado, let's get into the history of the band members. And right here we have their founding members. So the band was formed in Des Moines, I think I'm saying that right, Iowa, in 1995 by their former vocalist Sean Crahan and their bassist Paul Gray. So they've had so many lineup changes, but they settled on 9 members for more than a decade. You have Crahan, Gray, and then Joey Jordison, Craig Jones, Mick Thompson, Corey Taylor, which is their like vocalist, and he's pretty recognizable, very, very infamous. Sid Wilson, Chris Fenn, and Jim Root. So Iowa is one of the releases that they're like, it basically made them. It really skyrocketed the career of the band, and I think the one other album that they had that like really started it off was their debut album that they released. It's their self-titled, named just Slipknot, came out in 1999. So, just a history of the band members here. So tragically, in 2010, their bassist Gray had died. He had struggled with addiction for many, many years, and, you know, that catches up to you eventually, especially with the stuff that he was doing. So when they looked at the toxicology report, it showed morphine and fentanyl in his blood, which had caused his overdose. and eventually he was replaced by Donnie Steele, who would later leave the band during the recording of another album they have called Five, The Gray Chapter. So you're going to hear throughout this a lot of leaving and replacements and all that. You also have Joey Jordison, who would also leave the band in December of 2013. The band did find replacements for both of the members, with Alessandro Ventrilla on bass and Jay Weinberg on drums, which is one of their, more popular drummers. He was with them for a while. I don't know if he's still with them today. I don't think he is, but really, really big part of the band, along with Corey Taylor. So at this point, 2013, the only founding member that was left in the band was Crahan. He was their percussionist. He is seen on stage a lot, particularly in the song Before I Forget, hitting this big old metal, I guess a tub or vat or something, with just a big old stick. That's one of the things he does. And I couldn't imagine being up on stage and my job is just to hit this metal drum. Would be kind of awesome. But moving on from that. So Fenn was actually dismissed from the band in 2019 prior to writing their album We Are Not Your Kind. He was replaced with Michael Pfaff. And going a little more recent, they parted ways with Jones and Weinberg in 2023, and they were replaced by Eloy Casagrande the following year, so in 24, which is this year, way more recent. But like I said before, they found major success from their debut album Slipknot, their self-titled, in 1999. The band had traveled to Malibu, California, actually, to work on their album in 1998, which you hear of a lot of bands doing. There's this other band that I used to listen to called Lovejoy, and they booked like this Airbnb, I forgot where it was at, in this real remote location, and just stayed there for a couple of months to write this album, focus on the music, which I think that's such a cool thing. But anyways, they after traveling to Malibu, they later returned to Des Moines, their hometown, for like Christmas period. And during that time, their guitarist Bernard actually decided to leave the band. I don't know the specifics on why he left, but he is quoted saying, "Some decisions were made that I wasn't particularly happy with." The band is known for a lot of very, very gross, not school-appropriate stuff that they did. Not anything criminal or anything, just weird. One of them involves a goat head that is actually featured on the album cover of Iowa. So just a lot of gross stuff that happened. But during the recording of Iowa, there was a lot of conflicts that had rose up in the band just due to extensive touring and recording schedules. I mean, you could imagine being a band that's growing in popularity and already having all of these people leave and have to be replaced. It would definitely throw some strain on the band and in between members. And all these conflicts later led to the band's hiatus in mid-2002, just due to internal conflicts with the band. And the future of the band was questioned, and the band was really uncertain if they'd even release a third album after all of this was, said and done. This did, however, end up happening, and the band went on to release a lot more than just a third album. But yeah, around this time, people were unsure if they'd even continue. So, in January 24th of 2003, George Jordison stated that, well, he was responding to a bunch of comments and stuff, and he said, "I don't have a problem with anyone in Slipknot. I've seen comments from Corey saying there are things to be resolved, but I have no effing idea what he's talking about." So apparently Joey Jordison was, I don't want to say in denial about all of this, but he didn't really have problems with anyone. But seeing his comments from Corey, well, about Corey, and how aggressive it seemed, I don't know that would be very true. But nonetheless, on November 22nd, 2002, Slipknot would release their second DVD, Disaster Pieces, which is another pretty big part of their discography. I would say that there isn't really a lot of filler in their stuff. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up a song from Iowa, and it's one of my personal favorite songs, and it is called Left Behind. So I'll just skip to the middle of it, and I'll play it real quick through this microphone, just to give you a little taste of what they sound like. So this release was pretty heavy. They would go on and release more in the recent years their stuff that really wasn't as happy. It was not happy, heavy, titled The End So Far, and it really didn't get all that great of reactions from people because, I mean, you can imagine having a bunch of fans, millions and like hundreds of millions of people listening to those more heavier songs, and then you would just go and release some softer stuff. You could see how that would be a little shocking to the fan base, and it's just not something they're used to. I personally enjoy only a single song off of that release, so I'm even guilty of this bad reception to the album. I just didn't like it. It was real hyped up and wasn't really what we all were hoping for. They did this thing where, and a lot of bands do this, where they released like one song at a time until they reached like 5 songs off the album, and then they just released the full album. I don't like that. I think that I can understand releasing a song or two to try and build hype for the album, but the songs that they released weren't the greatest off of the album. In fact, I'd say that they were some of the worst, and it didn't really create much hype for it. If you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't really see a lot of people talking about this album release. And I think that it would have been a lot better for the band, even if the outcome wasn't different, if they would have just built up hype around this album. Hey, we're going to release this new thing, and I think it was 2023. Hey, we're going to release this new thing, and no, it was 2022. But just have people be like, oh, a new release. This is awesome. We've been waiting for this for, I think it was 2 years. No, 3 years since the release of We Are Not Your Kind. So I think a lot of hype would have been built around that, but instead they had released the songs that weren't really as great as some of their past material, and it kind of made the hype die down a little bit. But that's just my little rant. I'd like to finish this a little longer episode with their current lineup. So right now, the current lineup for the band as of 2024 consists of Sean Crahan, Mick Thompson, Corey Taylor, Sid Wilson, Jim Root, Alessandro Ventrilla, Michael Pfaff, and Eloy Casagrande. Now, me personally, I'm happy with this lineup. It's good, it fits. And I think the one irreplaceable member of the band would be Corey Taylor. If you didn't have his style of vocals, then I don't think that the band would ever quite be the same. But that's all that I have on the Slipknot release Iowa. I really hope you guys did enjoy. And if you did, be sure to stay tuned for some new episodes for this. My final comment is I have to give it a score on the metal meter. And as for this specific release Iowa, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And I think there's 2 songs off the album that I don't really particularly enjoy. And those are more like noise songs. You know, they're not really meant to be like songs. I think it's meant to get a message across. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't checked out the first episode of Metal Meltdown, I would recommend it. We talk about a garage rock band Grandma on that one. I very much hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next episode. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Eagles and Airwaves podcast. You can find us on all the popular podcast platforms. Until next time, stay strong, Eagles.